Hey, good morning for me. Good afternoon to you, Alex. Good evening, Steve.
What is going on, Reed?
Not much. How are you doing today? Happy Thursday.
I'm excited. I've been looking at the calendar on this event for so long, and I just love talking about data. Now that we have CI/CD support, come hang out with all my friends. Of course, great to have Steve here too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
very happy to speak with you. We've known each other for a while, I think now, and worked on stuff quite a few years in the past. So we're really happy to have you on and really excited for you to talk to us today.
Dude, we're gonna have a blast. And of course, when we end this, you're getting out of here for vacation. That's the best part of technology, right? It's all the hard work and then eventually the payoff and reward. So excited that we could spend this time with you before you get out.
Yeah, no, it's definitely didn't want to miss this. So yeah, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, and this is your second or third time doing a stream on some channel with me, Alex. Third?
It was like 3 or 4, man. We've done a few.
Yeah, exactly. It's been a few over the years, and it's first time on my Steve and I's second YouTube channel. So yeah, thanks for joining for this one. And as always, it's good to talk shop. I would say you were one of the best like hype men or hype people for yourself. So I enjoy your effervescent energy for sure when it comes to just hanging out, talking shop, doing any of that fun stuff.
Well, if we're not having fun, what are we doing, right? So that's like the good part here. And of course, like the topic, like we'll be going over like know before you flow. So especially anyone who's like using Dataflows today, anyone who's like using Power Query, especially within desktop, like there's so many cool things that are now possible here with the new generation, kind of Gen 2 with CI/CD support. So I felt like now is the right time. And then we just released like some other cool things like parameter support. So there's just so many amazing things we can talk about with Power Query. And I think for everyone, like that's always a first love here when we kind of find Power BI too. So
I'm just waiting for the day when you're like you probably still somewhere have your iconic Windows shirt with all the Windows logos across.
Yeah.
When are you going to get a fabric shirt that's going to look like that with just fabric logos?
I have my Power Query one, and I'm like, I need to go back and like reorder one with just like all fabric. It doesn't need to be black. Should it be white? Like, I don't know. I really got to think about it from a marketing standpoint. And I don't want them to change the icon either. So as soon as I hit that buy button, I don't want them to like rebrand us. So, it's a big commitment.
I feel like they'd keep the fabric logo for at least a couple of years, I would hope, before immediately changing it. But like if you had that and then all like maybe the artifacts or something, the different artifact icons scattered throughout, that could be a pretty fun shirt.
Oh, that would be cool. And I feel like Bernat might already have something like that for like, I don't know, if it's not fabric related, he might have like calc groups. But he's got a pretty cool shirt that's running around too. So hopefully like anyone that goes to like community events, kind of whether it be like local stuff like SQL Saturday or kind of like the big FabCon SQL bits where me and Steve got to hang out and kind of go to the crazy 80s disco party that they threw, like show up with some weird swag. Like,
Exactly. Yes. Stand out, be unique. Go ahead.
Yeah, I do enjoy seeing those. You get some pretty imaginative shirts there. So I think, yeah, anyone who comes to one of those events, definitely wear one of those and come say hi because you get some pretty cool ones. People have fun with it.
What's the next one you're going to be at? Just curiously, Alex, will you be at SQL Bits?
I will not. The next one is Build, which is like weeks.
Oh,
week with
so,
like
yeah, we're
yes.
Yeah, I'll be there helping out. I'm doing it's not a table talk, but it's like I'll be at a table and the topic will be on like marketing, branding, and YouTube type stuff. So just people can come up and ask. But I'll be doing 2 of the panel expert booth manning stuff. So I will be seeing you, I guess, in a few weeks.
Dude, that's awesome, man. Yeah, that's for especially like up in the Seattle area. Like you never know who might show up kind of that week. And then I'm doing a kind of a table talk on finding your community. So, whatever it is, like, do you want to be in like kind of like the YouTube community, kind of hang out in the chats, like the Guy in a Cube, Saturday morning streaming, kind of Saturday morning learning? Like, do you want to be in text-based forums? Do you want to be on the official forums? Like, there's so many places, like, just join up with other folks who are equally passionate or equally nerdy as you. So just trying to help people, like, I don't know about you, but the cloud, like this whole releasing new stuff every week, every month, just a dump truck of new features and capabilities. Like it's overwhelming. So I'm always like, all right, well, how do I sync up with Reed and like, what is he nerdy and excited about? He's like, yeah, we got these new things. Like, oh, awesome. Now I know what to go learn. And of course with Steve, like he's just been Mr. PowerShell for the longest time. Like I love copying and pasting the automation that he loves doing. I can't even imagine what he's doing now though these days. So.
No, I think it's good. I think you definitely the power of community. I agree with that. As you say, there is so much, and with Fabric, you're never going to know all the parts. So it's good knowing those people that are interested in those things that you're learning. Let them go and invest their time in figuring out, and they can come and tell you. But yeah, definitely joining those communities, I think, is best thing you can do in with a tool such as Fabric, Power BI, with so much in it.
So one thing that I want to do just before we hop into any slides or anything is from you, Alex, anybody who's tuning in either now or watching this later, if you want to do just a quick little spiel, elevator pitch on like who you are, what you've been doing, you're involved with the CAT team, and we'll kind of start from there and then segue into screen share once we're ready.
Well, I have that on an intro slide, Reed, if
oh yeah, okay,
I'm allowed to do that too.
If you ask nicely.
Well, then let's kind of start out here. And I don't see the slide yet on the screen.
There we go.
Whew. Welcome, everyone, for the topic of today. Know before you flow. Dataflow Gen2 with CI/CD support is now the right time to kind of start considering upgrading, modernizing, whatever the word you want to kind of use with just the latest features and capabilities. Kind of get us started here, though. Introduction about myself. My name is Alex Powers. I like to power query everything. So if you're out on the socials, just find that hashtag. I love sharing weird, fun stuff that everyone's up to. It really changed my career. Reed, I know you and me have kind of known each other for a very long time. Like, I found it in Excel. I was like, oh my gosh, I don't have to write VBA anymore to like do my lookups and kind of automation. I can just hit the refresh button. And of course, like attending like a dashboard in a day for me was just like, oh my gosh, like I could have the cloud schedule my refreshes. Like this is the most amazing thing ever. That was really how I kind of found my way, Excel, Power BI, Azure, kind of Fabric, everything that's kind of going on now. From like a finding me standpoint, LinkedIn, kind of over on Blue Sky, and then I hang out a lot over on Reddit. So always a fun, rowdy bunch over there, always sharing some cool, interesting tips and tricks. And of course, always engaging in some interesting discussions. But to kind of go back to like the professional side, work at Microsoft as part of the Fabric customer advisory team, and then kind of focused especially on the data integration aspects. So just like with Power Query, with Data Factory, kind of course, Dataflows, just like the low code, no code tooling, and then just by extension, just being out and about in the community. So events like this, like I'm always excited, like, all right, let's go hang out with Reed and Steve. And of course, everyone in the chat, like, what are you doing? What are you trying to do? What problems are you trying to solve? And then hopefully we can map the best technology, the best tools at the right time. Just a little bit about me, Reed.
Power query everything. And I loved it was basically the will it fold challenge that you used to have like on Twitter back in the day. It's still something, that I play a game with, every day is like, what does fold, what doesn't fold, little tips and tricks like that. Yeah, I mean, it's honestly like, just as one quick mention on that, it's back in the day, like before we had Fabric and everything, one of my biggest selling points for Power BI was like ignoring that this is a reporting platform. Like it's worth the cost of admission just to buy it for Power Query because it's such an easy to use data transformation tool back when like the only other options was SQL coding or other stuff.
Yeah, and I mean, that for me was like the, especially if you're dealing with spreadsheets and everything else, like just being able to automate the cleansing. Like,
yeah.
Still sending people to Power Query. I'm still blowing people's minds, I think, with, just what a little bit of simple Power Query can do. People in Excel, right, doing their manual work.
Like, here's Excel, like go to the farthest boundaries of our camera, right? Like, here's maybe Power BI if like we smush our hands together and like tiny little Fabric. Like people haven't even discovered Power Query yet.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
To think about. And it's like, all
still
right,
an untapped audience out there.
Oh my gosh. So hopefully they'll find it. It'll blow their minds, change their lives, change their careers, like hopefully a lot of us. And then from there, just like, my gosh, it's a rocket ship. Have fun with the journey.
Yep.
Cool. Well, then let's move on here. I want to kind of talk about like an agenda just like for this discussion. Then I really want to get in some code here at the very end too. But just talking about data flows, kind of the upgrade journey, some of the resources that are available, and then also just like I don't know, if you're kind of going through a project, a modernization, is it a go? Is it a no-go in terms of like upgrade benefits? Like you should have a rational discussion like, all right, is now the right time to kind of consider upgrading? Awesome. So with data flows, if you're out in Fabric, you're likely going to type in the search box. You're going to type in data flow and you'll get presented two cards, Gen 1 and Gen 2. And you're like, well, Alex, we kind of said today was about CI/CD. I don't see a third option. All right. Well, you're right. There is not a third option. What you'll see, though, is kind of as you go through the new item experience here, kind of going through, just typing in data flow, that Gen 1 or Gen 2, click that now. You'll see that little checkbox that says enable Git integration here just while it's in preview. Of course, once we get out of that public preview state, that will just be on by default. So we want to really get you into that CI/CD experience as quickly as possible, just so you can have the sync to Git, you have the deployment pipelines and all the other amazing things that kind of come with it. And then here at the very end, you're in a Power Query authoring interface. Nothing is different. Nothing has changed. The buttons are still there. But that little checkbox is that one thing you want to kind of focus on before you kind of progress on to the next thing. Reed or Steve, have any of you guys started using the new CI/CD as of yet? Or any of your customers?
I'll look to you, Steve, for this one.
Yeah, I'd say definitely in evaluation stage. Looking in a, yeah, it's still a few things in preview, so we're definitely testing things out, but awesome. Very happy so far. Very much needed and loving the direction. I think that is going in. A lot of gaps being closed, a lot of advancements made with some of the tools. So this is something I've been really keen and looking at.
So Steve, you said two things that I want to kind of drill into. One you said was it's in preview, and the second one is we're testing it. That's amazing. Please do that, right? Like now is the right time. Like when things are in preview, test them. Hey, does this thing work? Does it not kind of meet your needs? Provide that feedback back to Microsoft, whether it be through like the community forums, kind of the ideas board as well. We're always looking for that kind of feedback and signal of like, hey, did we hit the mark? What are we missing? So just thank you so much, Steve, for kind of taking that opportunity to kick the tires here. Okay. Awesome. Let's kind of move on here. So one other item, if we were to look at creating maybe a data flow Gen 1 in this example, hold on, Gen 2, we go to the next video. Progress. There we go.
There we are.
So if you were trying to create a data flow Gen 1, it will prompt you with this window now. Hey, I recognize that you want to create a data flow. There's a million amazing experiences now that exist here with the kind of Gen 2, whether it be like the output destinations, the fast copy, VNet support, which is only available in Gen 2, not in Gen 1. Kind of the new transformation engine as well with the Fabric Computer, the Lakehouse warehouse. Are you sure that you want to create a Gen 1?
Yes. I'll always say on these ones, it's like from an MVP perspective, I hope someday worlds get bridged a little bit between the two of them. I know the engineering and the backend is very different between old Gen 1 and like the new Fabric stuff, but the as a lot of people have said, like some type of a Fabric per user or something where you get a sprinkle of those like Fabric features into it, because even just the basic thing with outside of incremental refresh, to be able to choose append versus replace as like an output of Gen 2 makes it so easy to actually collect like historical data and other stuff like that.
So Fabric per user, this is an interesting topic. Now I'm curious to talk to you guys. Marco has an amazing idea out on the ideas forum. And he said, I want Fabric per user, but more as a development SKU, kind of as a license. So he wants very limited kind of scalability there. He wants a lot of it for kind of development and testing. Does that align with what you wanted to use it for, Reed?
I think, yeah, that's essentially what a lot of people with PPUs do. So like there's two types of the premium per user. There is the individuals who are just enough of a business that obviously they would never have a full capacity, but they get premium features for that. And then you have actual enterprise clients who have PPU, not because they can't afford a capacity, it's for development and testing, so you don't have a noisy neighbor inside of your capacity. So for both scenarios, I think there's huge benefit for fabric per user, but especially for the individuals that might actually have the development and testing separation, where you can just hammer it and it'll have the auto limits and everything else, but you're not gunking up your enterprise actual fabric capacities at all.
Just hammer it, and Microsoft has to eat the.
Well, they have auto, like with any shared capacity, right? Like they have their own little gears that make sure that nobody's using too much, and the neighbors aren't being too noisy with each other. But that's to be handled on the Microsoft side, because it's a lower shared capacity SKU. The client shouldn't have to worry about that.
Awesome. Well, I like hearing that. Steve, what are your thoughts about maybe a limited capacity kind of restriction, development only, or do you have customers who may be like, we only have 5 or 10 people, we could just go per user, and that may be good?
I completely agree with everything Reed said. I mean, I think the PU's definitely great for those enterprise clients who need, as you say, don't want to buy a second whole capacity just for their dev and testing. You're always going to get a lot of people, I think, who will be watching this and would say we'd love a fabric per user because they want to go and use all the stuff, and they're not at an organization who's maybe big enough to afford, one of the SKUs that can run all of this. So I think you're always going to get those people. I think that's a great start for the enterprise clients, the limited capacity FPUs. I think that would be a great SKU. Cool. I know people are always going to ask for an FPU because they want to use all the cool fabric stuff that you're doing, and most of both sides. I'm
with them there too, like for DP 600, 700 certifications for those kind of watching. I want just like a FPU for learning and development. It would be good for like dev work as well. What would you pay for that? What would your pricing be for an FPU?
I'd put it probably in the $30 to $40 range, because premium per user is 25 now. It went up with so I think it's like around 25, but I'd tack on another 10 or 15 on top of that, whatever that is, because it to some capacity it's replacing what PPU would be doing. You get all that plus now additional fabric features, so somewhere in there, enough that you should be able to buy 5 to 7 seats of that, and it would, before you hit the cost of the first price for fabric licensing, for their lowest SKU there. Steve,
Reed says about 40. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I mean, I would assume probably similar, but slightly higher than a PPU. That's the price point we've been paying, and the SKUs are fairly similar priced if you get to sort of an F64 to a P1. That said, obviously with the FPU, you're probably getting a fair amount more. So I think it's fair to be a bit more than a PPU. So I think Reed's in a good ballpark there. I'd agree with him.
All right, I like his price point then. And I make no decisions at Microsoft, so nobody listens to me here. But I've always been like,
no. This is cemented, right? Anything we talk about today is official. It's going to be, yeah.
But I've been like the 50 to 70, really depending upon how many guardrails would be put on. If you put on no restrictions, just let me kind of run wild, I could see 70. But I agree, Reed, at a certain point, at 4 team members, you already had a SKU. Doesn't make sense to just go for the smallest F2 to kind of get your feet wet.
And the other potential problem with that is you're basically running a Raspberry Pi on the lowest SKU. It's so the you want to make it affordable, but also you don't want the price to go up so much where if you switch over, you have the 4 people, now you've switched to a fabric capacity, and now it's actually worse because the lowest fabric capacity doesn't run as well as the SKU. So there's a really careful song and dance you have to do between the two of them. And otherwise if one's too lucrative versus the other, they're going to stick entirely to that kind of a thing, just considering how low performing that very base fabric capacity is.
Yeah. And then if someone can maybe type in the chat here for us, just aka.ms/fabric ideas. For anyone that's kind of watching the stream, go out there, vote up Marco's idea of the FPU. I absolutely love it. I hope that we just keep getting more and more thumbs in that item. I'd love to see it kind of at this similar price point that we did kind of talked about, but at a certain Spark workload or something else, like, hey, have you already consumed all of your resources for the day? So it may be kind of a bit of a trickier balancing act. Awesome. So new splash screen, you're maybe on a pro license, maybe on a premium per user license on Power BI. The Dataflow Gen2 do require a Fabric capacity license. So does it make sense, right? Like, as you look at the new features on the screen, does it make sense to give that trial, that 60 days, kick the tires, try things, build things? Of course, at the very end, hey, if it doesn't work out, there's no commitment. You didn't put in a credit card. That's not going to automatically bill you. But if you're like, this is amazing, we really want to kind of move forward with it, find the right SKU level, install the capacity metrics app. How many CUs were you using? What are you maybe projecting kind of as you move forward with your projects? But just be aware that Dataflow Gen2 do require a capacity license.
Yep. And then just before we move on, we do have a question from the audience here.
Oh, thank you.
So we have a question. Can existing Dataflow be integrated? So, for example, adding a CI/CD to an existing Dataflow that wasn't set up as a CI/CD.
It's a fantastic question. I did not pay this person to be here today, but the right slide here at the right moment. So as you're looking to upgrade your existing Dataflow, there are different capabilities such as importing and exporting templates. This will create a new ID, the unique user ID for that item. So anything you have built, like a data pipeline that may have an existing, you will need to go in and reconfigure those, or any REST APIs or Power Automates that you may have. So you can't upgrade it to a CI/CD and maintain everything. Unfortunately, that doesn't exist. So just kind of keep that in mind. A new ID will be generated. Whew. All right, so this is one method that's manual, right? So you export a template in this PQT. If you want to go into your Windows Explorer and rename it to .zip, very similar like the old Power BI, you can see the underlying content. So you can see like the mashup definition. You can see all the underlying text. So it's very cool from that perspective. But we have CI/CD now, right? Like, we shouldn't be doing this manually anymore. Like, hey, committed into kind of Git, and then maybe some of the new cool APIs that exist. Awesome. So let's look at kind of a new capability that is available. So you go to your ... menu, you go to your save as in your existing Gen 1, and you can automatically upgrade it into a Gen 2.
The auto upgrade is really nice for sure. I like that.
Yeah. You can't deselect here. Again, it's creating that new Gen 2 with CI/CD. It'll take you right into that amazing Power Query user interface. And then you didn't have to rebind, you didn't have to import, export. Steve, this would be an awesome project, right? Like, if you had 200 data flows, you could just go to ... menu 200 times, and hopefully by like the end of the week, you'd be done, right?
Exactly.
No, that'd be awful. This is why I'm so excited to kind of talk about, hey, this is a menu. If you have a couple of these, absolutely just kind of knock them out by hand. Don't think too long about it. It does generate a new item, so both items will exist in the same workspace. The new ID will also be generated. And then this does support both the Gen 1 and the Gen 2s without CI/CD. And then the save as will only allow you to save it in the same workspace. So if maybe you were starting to do like a branching strategy of, well, these data flows go in this workspace, all this other stuff goes over here, like your lake houses, just keep that in mind. This would only be within that same workspace. Whew. All right, Semantic Link Labs. So imagine you have all these data flows just sitting out here, Gen 1s and Gen 2s. You install Semantic Link Labs. You kind of look at your list of workspaces here. So I've got my Fabric data flows. I've got some of the Power BI, Power Platform data flows that exist out there. I then want to just run a simple for each loop. Now I'm going to use this upgrade _ data flow function. I say just go loop through every data flow that exists in that workspace. Just go ahead and run it, start automatically upgrading it here now for me. And then as you toggle back, you can see that the Semantic Link Labs will upgrade all of these automatically. So Steve, that
I
200
like that a lot.
project is automatically done just with a simple for each.
Cut my week down a lot there.
So this is kind of one of those fun sneak peeks. We showcased this at FabCon. Reed, you said you'll be at Build. Hopefully I'll see you there. Maybe we can talk about it a little bit. But the public APIs for Dataflow Gen2 will allow us to take advantage of this and do some amazing things now with Semantic Link Labs. Like
really, really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is
really
where
cool integration.
This is where awesome. This is where I'm just like so excited with our community. We all have this problem, right? Like, hey, we have to do these things. Is there code that exists where maybe we could kind of leverage each other's work? Absolutely. So I love that we're focusing a lot more on open source. I wrote all these functions here for Dataflows. So I'm like, all right, well, what problem would Steve have or Reed have? And like, how can I maybe get a little bit ahead of it? So then that way they just install Semantic Link Labs and they're up and running. And then we're on to the next thing, Like, these are the cool parts that I'm so excited about. And then because it's REST API and we have code now, like we can look at the actual mashup definitions. What else can we do with code? Well, we can evaluate it. Is it good code? Is it bad code? There's this cool thing that's called the best practice analyzer for Power BI, right? What if we had a best practice analyzer for our mashup code? Where we can start looking at your tables and saying, this broke the fold, rearrange some of this stuff, do these other things. Then, of course, with Gen AI, we could even start refactoring your code for you.
Yeah, and it's always one of those things because there's two things that both Power Query and DAX does well, because it does automatic code refactoring in the backend. If you have an order where you've actually, like, let's put a filter after something that broke query folding, but it realizes it could just move that 2 steps up for you, it won't rearrange your query, but it will, to my understanding, like actually send something in the backend where it will scoot some of the things around. If it realizes like this is a, it can rearrange it without modifying the data, basically. So like it auto optimizes for you. Same with DAX. Like if you write a crappy measure, there are certain times where it realizes a pattern and it will auto fix that for you. So, and I think it's like a double-edged sword because it can teach people to write inefficient queries because it's, oh, this runs fast. Well, technically it wouldn't, but it's thinking, more advanced than you are because you just don't realize about query folding or something. So, yeah. I would hope maybe what it does at some point is not just rewrites it for you, but as you start to put this stuff into here, have prompts or suggestions. I want Clippy to show up and like, hey, I've noticed that you have a filter step after your buffer table. Have you considered moving this one step prior to ensure you have query folding? And it'll help anyways when we start to get Power Query 2.0, Web Power Query and desktop, where we get all the icons and everything else that's like, where there's 8 stages of query folding, it is folded. It's likely folded. Maybe it's folded. I have no idea if it's folded. It's probably not folded. There's all those different, because it's states of like, depending on what source you're connecting to. But I'm at least excited for that to eventually, in 5 years, come to Power BI desktop.
Well, it's there today in Power BI Report Builder, so just keep that in mind that paginated reports are getting all the goodness of the modern Power Query experience.
And wait, that paginated report builder got it before desktop?
Yeah.
What world are we? What universe is this?
And that is one of the best implementations I've ever used. If you've not tried it with paginated reports, it's amazing. So big fan to the team there for kind of knocking that one out. Awesome. Yeah, so let's dramatic pause. We've got quite a few kind of comments in here. So love hearing from Donald. He said, these upgrade paths look amazing, whether it be through like the native UI, whether it be through like the community investment open source tooling with Semantic Link. And then, of course, like looking at like a best practice analyzer, like, yes, let's think about what are common problems that we all have here in our own work, in client work, whatever it may be. And then is there anything that we could do as kind of like a shared community open source? I'm investing a lot in Semantic Link Labs just because, I don't know, like, yes, I write Power Query, but I also have been writing Python for ages. I've been writing VBA for ages, PowerShell. It's like, now I get a fun little experience to get back into some code and just think about how can I make things simpler for, the people who are discovering Power Query today. So I think that there are just some amazing opportunities for all of us to like share our knowledge. Any questions though from maybe those in attendance or watching, Reed or Steve? I'll kind of pass over to you as well. Any thoughts there about just some of the upgrade opportunities that exist?
Just at least a comment that I'll throw up here from Donald, where he's just he really likes the idea for just a BPA for Power Query, in any code refactoring, end of the day, right? And but other than that, no questions so far. But just as a reminder for people in chat, drop it with a Q at the beginning and a question, and we'll pop it up here for Alex.
Awesome.
I like some dramatic pause.
I know,
Go
right?
ahead.
Let's talk about some of the resources. So I'm a huge fan of having the right material at the right time. I had authored both of these docs. So one is kind of the migration from Gen 1 to Gen 2. It just talks like the value of like, hey, is right now the right time? And then there's also a functional comparison matrix that says this generation has this generation has that. Is it yes, no? If you've ever used the analysis services to Power BI Premium doc, it should feel very similar. And then the migration scenarios doc, right-hand side, this is actually UX. So in that project, like, what are the things you're trying to do? We use link tables a lot today, or we feed it in semantic models today. What should I look at? All right, if you're doing semantic models, start using data destinations. Quit connecting to your data flows. I think for me, that's a big win of just like, a data flow is confusing. I'm sorry. Like, if you're a first-time user and you're like, well, wait, I consume data from a data flow, but it's Power Query, but it's also data, and you're like, well, it's ETL logic, but it's also a consumable item, and it could also fold, and it could also do direct query, and you're like, this does way too many things. Generation 1 was awesome, but it was just difficult for people to wrap their heads around. With Gen 2, the big thing for me is like, write your data to destination. Get the SQL endpoint, apply security through row level or object level security through like a warehouse. A lot more things make a lot more sense if it's just a straight up ELT tool. I don't call it ETL anymore because the best patterns for me are what extraction, load, and transform. ELTL, if we're being honest, or letters. And then can we use parameters for destination table name or data destination? Yes, it does support parameterization there for the destination table names. So just click your drop-down menu there, Bernat, and then you'd be able to get that customized. And that's one of the big wins there. Is that parameter management from external services? Yes, that's the one that I'm excited about. So we'll kind of go out to the doc. I really want to kind of showcase that, but like at a high level here, incremental refresh. I have it in Gen 1. Do you have it in Gen 2? Yes, absolutely. We have a new upgraded kind of UI. It's not done outside of the system. So if you're ever using Gen 1, like whenever you applied incremental refresh, you couldn't actually see the scripts. It was always done through like the weird backstage menu. Now it's actually there in the code. So you can kind of customize it. Accessible file outputs. Gen 1 was all CSV files stored in a Microsoft managed lake, unless this little star here, unless you brought your own Azure data like Gen 2 storage. If you brought your own Gen 2 storage, you could write a CDM, so a common data model manifest, and you could just load that into Dataflows and not even use Power Query. It was very weird, very interesting. I learned a lot about dynamics in Dataverse, and it all feels like it's gone now. Like all that knowledge and all those hours and weeks I spent on it, just one of those nerd commitments where I went down a rabbit hole and it didn't pay off. It happens to the best of us, right? Data destinations, though, right to Lakehouse, right to Warehouse, right to an Event House, right to SQL Database and Fabric, right to Synapse, right to SharePoint. I know that was announced. AI Insights. So if anyone was using the sentiment analysis or language detection in Power Query, unfortunately, that does not exist in Gen 2 right now. So that
and one just quick question on destinations, just for a comment/question, is the ability to use parameters for destination table or data destinations.
Yes, we can. So whenever you're setting up those destinations in the drop-down box, just like you have with like data source settings, instead of being like ABC, change it to a parameter value and be able to customize that. So that's one of the awesome new capabilities they introduced.
Wasn't that something from, didn't Miguel Escobar have some post about like parameterization of something on LinkedIn where you could batch things based off a tenant or something like that?
Yeah, he did a crazy fun example. It was like Northeast, Southwest to just like showcase if you were like looping through a data pipeline you could do, 4 different values in a list, and then you could write those to 4 different tables based on that value. So you'd write to the north, east, south, and west table. And I was like, oh man, that's such a great example.
Yeah. That's right. It was creating multiple data flows via like a scheduled pipe that would auto and then like segment them out by like parameterization of filters or something. But you could like throw out 50 data flows into workspaces really quickly or something. Yeah.
Yeah. So the imagination here now is pretty awesome to kind of think about that. Anyone using linked tables, let me know, because they don't exist. They're not a thing. Use shortcuts. Shortcuts are amazing.
Yeah.
And then on-prem data gateway, yes, applicable in both generations. Then VNet data gateway only available in Gen 2. And this is that new one that we were just talking about, me and Reed. For the longest time, using a Gen 1, I was like, where's the parameter section in the data flow, just like Power BI Desktop has? It never existed. You could never alter the parameter values from external systems, whether it be through like a UI of the data flow settings or like REST APIs. Those both now exist here with this new parameterization that just got released. So now you can have a data pipeline. You can do some amazing things, passing values through, or with like some of the new REST API endpoints that are becoming available, where you can submit those through code or through custom actions. Oh my gosh, Reed, we have lit up this chat. What is going on over here?
Exactly. Let's see. I can pop up a couple if you want.
Let's do it.
All right, from Mehrdad, if I'm getting the name correct, do we have to reconfigure after migration some features that are not available in Gen 2, like linked tables? How would it be migrated or configured?
Yeah, so we'll talk about that in the code here whenever I kind of showcase that in a little bit. You will need to rebuild it, but I'll kind of throw out a little flag for you whenever you're kind of doing like the upgrade script to say, hey, I recognize a link table exists, go take action on this. But absolutely in those examples, like you should start considering refactoring to be like, all right, I don't need link tables anymore. I need to start using shortcuts. That would be a big thing though, is if you do detect those.
And then Alan Jones, when will Gen 2 Power Query be able to pull in CSV or basically like flat files from a secured FTP site? Half kidding, because I've asked Alex before.
The P in Fabric is for patience. So Alan, just keep voting up on the ideas board there. And keep me honest, I think you may be able to get access to the files via pipelines, maybe just land in the lakehouse and then connect to it. I don't know. That could be maybe one small workaround for today. Awesome.
And then one last one will be cut up from Bernat. When changing data flows in a pipeline, why are the parameters wiped out?
I don't know. What does that mean, Bernat? Can you give us a little more context? What does the wipeout mean?
They'll follow.
Yeah. Awesome.
Done.
Whew. All right. So upgrade benefits. I've seen people out on the interwebs like, I copied and pasted my code from Gen 1 to Gen 2 and XYZ got faster or slower. I just want to be very transparent here. It's not apples to apples. It's apples to oranges. With Gen 1, you had files that were just CSV in a lake. With Gen 2, it's writing out to the Parquet files with kind of that Delta transaction log. We're applying V-order optimization. Steve, what is V-order?
V-order, your Vertipack internal Microsoft order.
Absolutely, man. It's that amazing algorithm compression that we have in Power BI. We're scanning each column of your table and applying that compression to make those things incredibly small and then making your reads incredibly fast. So for the analytics projects, yes, you're taking a little hit on the ETL, but everything else that's downstream will be a beneficiary then. Then, of course, with data now kind of moving through the lakehouse and also the warehouse, that's where that massive compute and kind of scalability now comes into play. So if you see these comparisons out on the interwebs, just know, hey, here are some of the differences between the two. And I'm going to write a kind of a fun new doc on this topic as well. So hopefully I can kind of get that shared here with the group whenever that gets published.
Excellent.
Oh, all right. I know there's a quiz. You showed up today having fun, and here I am testing you. How many tables or queries does a Dataflow support? I'll pause there.
I'm trying to think of because I've gotten close to 50. I don't think I've ever passed it, but I've gotten close. And at that point, it actually starts to slow down just opening the UI. So I think almost organically, I've probably never hit the limit on my own because I've realized how much it chugs if you have too many queries at once. So I'm going to go with 50.
50. Interesting. Steve, yourself.
You know what? I passed on this one. I don't think I've ever had that limit. In the chat, we've got a couple at 50. We've got someone at 100 guessing.
Yeah, we've got some hundreds here. 50 feels low though. Like whenever I see some people open up their screen with like their big old semantic models, like Power Query can handle, hundreds and hundreds of tables. Everyone thinks
true,
50.
but it did. Yeah, it doesn't chug as much. Like because I've done a lift and shift where you just select all, copy, paste, and it loads pretty quick, but like the frame rates drop and it starts like getting stuttery in like at least like Gen 1 data flows in the service. So like I would organically actually start to have separate flows because too many queries in one, it seems like it's trying to process too much at once.
Gotcha. All right. Well, the answer is 50.
Yeah, cool.
I don't know how I feel about that.
Yeah.
Like, what if I need 51? Do I just yell at Microsoft, go to the ideas forum, and then say, thumbs up, 51? Then we
now,
go
is that
52?
for both Gen 1 and Gen 2 or just Gen 1?
Gen 2, I believe. I think some Gen 1 may have some higher limits there, but
that would be funny if Gen 1 actually is higher as a query limit than Gen 2. That shouldn't be the case, I would hope.
Yeah, well, let's take some look at the limitations there. But what happens if we need 51 or 52? Steve?
Yeah, you go ahead, Steve.
That's a good question. I mean, assumably, most of what we're doing in Gen 2, if we're using Fabric, we want to be loading into a table anyway. I would assume we'd be kind of loading these into a database, which is one of the key advantages, I think, of what I really like about Gen 2.
I know, but what happens when we hit the ceiling limit of 50? Do we go yell at Microsoft and wait for the years and years for hopefully them to raise the limit to 51? Then tomorrow it's 52 that you need in your project requirements?
Probably my approach.
Or do you just like go create another data flow?
You'd create another data flow. Depending on your source too, I feel like with the bronze medallion structure, the load transform load across different data flows can be done where you maybe have to bronze it a bit. Slight combination, maybe a couple joins that bring it over. And I don't know if this is the case or not. The one thing I would say with Dataflows Gen 2 is shortcuts. I don't think should count for that. I think you should have a limit of 50 things that are doing some type of filter or transformation. But if there's only data movement or connection happening, I would hope that wouldn't tick up against the limit of things over on the side versus like actual like M code transformed queries.
Interesting. All right. Well, Reed said, hey, we can create a new data flow. He started laying out maybe some possible, in this case, like if you're using staging, maybe I'll have the queries over here, or maybe if like I'm doing just data movement, I'll kind of have some queries over here. All right, so Reed is really talking about this interesting, just like having logical processes. All right, so I'm going to start thinking about my data flows from dimensions and facts. All of my dims, I'm just going to go ahead. I'm going to load those because I know they're small. I know they're quick. And then all of my facts, I'll probably only have, one or two queries maybe in some of my projects that are just doing append type of operations for kind of that big table. And maybe those are the only ones that have increment refresh. Everything else is just drop and load, drop and load, drop and load on those dimension tables. That could be one way we can think about this, right, Reed?
Yeah.
All right. Let's think about it another way. Maybe some of these sources that need staging, where we know we have to load that data into kind of that lake, that staging, and then we were going to throw the Fabric compute, that warehouse on top of it to do something massive. And then maybe those are where it's like, my gosh, this is a 50-row text file. Do we need to have all that massive compute on top of it? We don't need that. Dataflows does a really good job of recommending, hey, I've disabled staging for you because the data volume here is just not worth it. So that's maybe a good separation. These queries require staging. They're going to be in their own data flow. These others don't. They're going to be kind of broken out between the two. Fast.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
We were just talking about this, right? So if all I'm doing is just data kind of transfer, so I'm using the underlying data pipeline. So for those who are not familiar with the fast copy concept, it is using the Power Query interface, and then behind the scenes we'll use the copy activity in the data pipeline to do that high-speed data retrieval, and then just moving it from your source to your destination. Nothing in between per se. These queries in this data flow are only fast copy. Everything else, maybe there's slower sources like a text CSV file where it doesn't have a compute engine. For those, you're going to do it without fast copy broken out.
Okay. Yeah. Do you have a preference for your methodology? Would you have a preference between the three of them?
Oh, there's not a three. I'm using all of them, Reed. I'm looking at everything. Query folding or not query folding. So for some of the fast copy sources, they do require query folding. If it's coming from like an Azure SQL database, Snowflake, etc.
Yep.
We do support fast copy against data lakes with like text or CSV files. It's just a very limited set of transformations. So if you've broken that fold, you're not getting fast copy. So then I'm starting to think about it from like an ELT pattern of like, well, I'm going to extract all my data into my bronze layer. And then once it's in bronze, when I ensure that it does query folding, I'll have it kind of broken out, maybe into that second data flow, if I don't want to contain everything in just a single data flow.
Yeah, okay. I get that.
All right. And then why does that look the same? Someone updated that. All right. So I'll have to go back and figure out who did a version history here on my slide. But
nice.
The last one is going to be, does everything need to be done in a data flow? Could portions be offloaded to like the copy job? Simple UI, right?
Yeah.
Point and click, source to destination. There is no transformations or very limited transformations, which are basically renaming of a table or column selection. That's it. Those are the things that you can do. Is it a data pipeline? Like if in Reed's scenario, like, hey, I'm going after, hundreds of tables. Should I have that broken out across, 4 or 5 data flows, or should I just create a for each loop in a data pipeline to go after that? It's going to be up to you, right? It's the authoring preference of, you can still do it through a UI with the data pipeline. Mm-hmm. You don't have to write custom code. Or it could be, of course, like mirroring and all these other new amazing things that kind of keep getting released. Start breaking out of that mindset of, does everything need to be done in the data flow, or can I just use it for transformations, kind of as Reed had called out, where it's like, well, I'm going to do some merging and maybe a little bit of light transformations. Absolutely. Like joining 2 tables together, simple within the data flow. So maybe that'd be a great kind of use case there. And then just having it orchestrated throughout your data pipeline from beginning till end. I'll pause there though, Reed and Steve. Have you thought about breaking out data flows kind of maybe in these little buckets of these concepts?
I think this is very interesting. I mean, we typically would break out things, by region, by source, right, as well, and kind of more of a dependent on project that you're working in, maybe by gateway, for example. So I think lots of different ways you could. I think logically by what they're doing, by what they're connected to, and I think there's a lot of ways you could that would make sense a lot.
Awesome.
Yeah, and I definitely do the one kind of like fact versus dimension or by group or theme, right? Like it's the let's assume you have like a really large model that might even have a couple of perspectives for different audiences for that data. Like that could also be a way to segment out your the tables that you have related to like the parts of the company as well. But at the end of the day, like with any of these practices, it's an art and a science, right? So what makes the most sense for an organization perspective. It's almost like with folder design, with files that you have on your computer. Like there's not a right or wrong methodology outside of, it's always wrong to just dump everything in a single folder. But whatever allows you to find the information you need to, where it makes sense for the person managing it, right? And that changes company to company.
Yeah, absolutely. So for me, like a lot of these things that I'm kind of recommending on the screen, it comes down to resource management. I want to get the data flow run as efficiently and as fast as possible to release those compute units. So if I have 9 out of 10 tables that are blazing fast and that one is just sitting there spinning for 4 hours, I'm going to break it out into its own thing. I'm going to throw as much compute at it as possible in its own separate data flow, because that way I just am handling my resources as efficiently as possible, as opposed to things being stuck in a queue. Kind of there's some queue limits to just kind of read out in the Dataflow docs. But that is the big thing for me. That's why I'm like, I try and tell everyone just like start thinking about some of these scale recommendations. Awesome. So Dataflow Gen2 in Dataflow, or no, I'm sorry, in Power BI Desktop, it's generally called enable load. So you load your contents to the data model. In Excel, it's loading it to a spreadsheet. But in Dataflow Gen2, it's enable staging. This is generally on by default. Got to keep that in mind. The Power Query kind of editor here, if it recognizes that you're doing way too much here for a very small volume of data, it'll turn it off. If you're trying to use a data warehouse, it will actually enable it by default. You cannot disable it. So if you're writing to a data warehouse, it is required staging. Otherwise, Lakehouse, you can kind of decide, hey, do you want to have staging or not? Let's kind of keep that in mind here, on by default. So kind of watch there. What that means, though, is it takes your source, it'll read it through kind of the matchup engine, the logic here of your transformations. It will then say, all right, I'm going to move the data into a underlying staging lakehouse. So if you're out in your workspace and you see a bunch of staging lakehouse for data flows, staging lakehouse for warehouse, that's what it's doing, is it's throwing that content in the lakehouse. It's then throwing the warehouse on top of it for that SQL endpoint. So in that way it can do some query folding. And then it says, hey, I'm ready. I'm going to get you to your final destination. Ideally a lakehouse, a warehouse, kind of database, whatever it may be. But that is what is happening behind the scenes. If you have a source like a SQL database that's just query folding, you just want to get it from here all the way to the end. You don't need any of this. You just want to stream that data through query folding. So again, that's where fast copy will be an amazing capability there for you, as long as you maintain the folding.
Out of curiosity, would you have like an upper limit for some of that? So like, let's assume you have a 2 billion row table that you're moving over into that. Would you at that point like go to a data pipeline and just do it with SQL code, Python, or could you still use like just a fast copy through the Power Query interface to transfer that over?
Fast copy through Power Query, as long as you maintain folding, we're going to get it from source to destination for you. And then it's purely like of authoring. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, but underneath the hood there, we're going to use the exact same copy activity that exists in the data pipeline. So skill level, preference, do you want to spread something across different items, or you just want to have it all self-contained in kind of one? So maybe kind of a distinction there. Data destinations, again, so excited about these. This is what makes Power Query feel real now, of like, oh my God, we've been asking about writing to destinations for so long. Configure a writing to SQL database in Fabric, Lakehouse, Warehouse, Event House, Azure SQL Database, Azure Synapse Analytics, coming soon, SharePoint, where you can start writing out to like some CSV files. There's just so many cool ideas and places where we'd start thinking about this capability. And then the two update methods that exist today is going to be replace and append. I know everyone is kind of always asking about a merge. The team has like, we definitely want to kind of get that knocked out, but please, ideas.fabric, let's keep getting some thumbs up on that just to kind of showcase the importance there.
This is game changer, I think. Definitely for me, that was the reason. Gen2 data flows. I mean, I would never probably author a Gen 1 in most cases here. This is really, really cool. Having that append, I think Reed mentioned earlier, such a nice functionality with a great UI. So definitely want to shout out there. Good work to the team for implementing this one.
Heck yeah. The first time I did like writing to like an Azure SQL database, kind of whenever I was like in an early private preview release, I was like, I didn't realize like how amazing this was going to be. Like just doing ETL from like click, 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 done.
Yep.
Incredible. And I hope for like anyone who's, using Excel or even using like Power BI Desktop today, because I see some of the community comments were like, I just need to export all my data from Power BI into table and matrix. Like, did you need Power BI or did you need an ETL tool? And like 9 times out of 10, I think they just wanted the capability of scheduling a data extract, and Power BI was just a vehicle in which they had to use. With data flows now, my gosh, man. I think we could see some massive, massive areas here just for a lot of the citizen integrators. And then, of course, the crazy scale that we now allow them to go after, too. It's like, oh, what are they going to come up with? So it'll be interesting to see community content. Awesome. So Reed, this is where you were kind of talking about like, hey, as long as you maintain query folding, we can go out and kind of get that information here. So this step will be evaluated by the data source. The limited set of transformations that are supported. So combining files, selecting or removing columns, changing data types, or renaming a column. If it's from a database source, though, as long as you maintain folding, that's what we will go ahead and go after. So all of that is supported.
Exactly.
So kind of keep that in mind. All right, incremental refresh. This is that new UI offering that I was just talking about in the past with like the Dataflow Gen1. You had to like hit apply and you'd have to do it outside of the Power Query editor and you couldn't actually see the code. It was all weird and wonky. They said, no, we're not doing that for this new generation. Just right click your query, select incremental, and then you can start setting the different policies here. So days, weeks, months, quarters, whatever it may be. And then this is all available through kind of the code with CI/CD. So if you need to come in and update anything or change anything, just kind of be aware you can do that through external methods. That one's a new exciting one. And then orchestration, my goodness, like chaining your events together. I think a lot of people are using Power Automate and kind of the Dataflow actions and activities. If you just want to do it all on a single platform. Here's my copy job. Here's my copy activity. Next thing up is my data flow. After that, refresh maybe a Power-based semantic model. If you're still using import mode, though I don't know why anyone would, just use direct lake everything. Hashtag direct lake everything. But all of it orchestrated now. Like that is so cool to me for all the people who have never built a data pipeline with Azure Data Factory. It's a no-code interface here. Point and click your activities, chain them together. It's just been amazing to see like some of the Power Platform folks that are coming up with very inventive solutions to a lot of these new releases. So excited there. Live demos. Can we do any code here? Do we still have time?
Yeah. We it's always a soft stop for an hour. So usually 10 to 20 minutes over. It's not a problem.
Awesome. All right. Let's do some semantic link labs. I'm going to connect out to just this Python environment. Let's go ahead and install some stuff. It's been a while. Hopefully nothing breaks. For anyone who is using semantic link labs, or if you've not really heard of it, just the elevator pitch here is just open source kind of community contributions. A lot of people from Microsoft, Michael Kowalski, specifically from our team, he just adds new functions as new APIs get released. There is a library that's called Senpai.fabric. A lot of that is just like the base REST APIs. And then what you'll see with semantic link labs is like, well, I'm chaining multiple APIs together to complete an activity or complete a task. So a lot of these could be like upgrading an import model to direct lake, converting a Power BI premium SKU to FSKU, just like some of those automations. What I'm kind of focused on here, we'll just kind of install some of these packages, is I'm really focused on data flows. All right, so we've got that one updated. Resolve a data flow name and ID. It's a new function. What is the current generation of it? So as I look through the mashup definition, is it a Gen 1? Is it a Fabric data flow, or does it have that CI/CD support here with that native item? Function list data flows. So that's going to be an awesome one that combines both the Gen 1 and Gen 2 APIs. So instead of making two API calls, you can just call this one function. I'll append everything for you, kind of union it. So let's go ahead and take a look here. On my so many data flows workspace, I have these data flows that exist across Dataflow Gen 1, Gen 2, some of these different descriptions and other metadata that's available. So we can append those two API calls here in just a simple single return value for you. All right, getting the data flow definitions. So this will be all of that mashup that exists out there. So again, me detecting, are you a Gen 1 or you are a Gen 2, and then doing the different retrieval here. So let's do this. Hopefully I haven't destroyed anything here recently. Get data flow definition. Too many values to unpack. What are you talking about? Let's see. May have to kick over and get this item here. What is the too many values? Did they change anything on me? Let's run the next one. Oh my gosh.
Is there a limit?
No, I hope that they haven't changed the REST API response. But if they have, then I may check another notebook. Oh, there we go. Does not exist. So likely I just deleted it.
I like the workspace name is great. Just so many data flows. How many? So many.
There's just so many out here. All right. So we have this. Let me check this migration notebook too. We'll see if this one has any updated code for me. Connects. I want to check on one other thing here. Yeah, this is likely all older. Yep, but it may have something for me. So let's do this. All right, first cell block. Let's run it again. I knew fiddling with my data flows and deleting them before we went live is going to be the best part of my day. All right, let's do this.
Live demos.
I know. You're always like, I'm going to make one more adjustment just to make it even better. And it's like, no, I actually destroyed everything. All right, so resolve our data flow generation. Cool. And then let's start flows. I wonder if I changed anything. Nope, just item ID, workspace ID. Awesome. So I've got some of the Power Platform. I've got some of the other old Trident labels. So let's go ahead and run this. Whew. All right, cool. It worked. This is the Power BI Power Platform data flow version generation. So it's able to detect what is the underlying REST API kind of body, because they're a little bit different here between the two. So as we go into like getting the data flow definition here, let's do this, get data flow Gen 1 definition. Likely we're going to get a big old table here as our response. Yes. Let me change this to true. So what you may typically see from like the REST API is just going to be a massive body of text. There you go. So here's your mashup document. Here's like some of the query groups, especially if you have like folders or kind of parameters and other things. Some of the connection details, like all of this is stored within code. So I don't want to have to do manual export and imports. I want to go through this and I want to upgrade it into the CI/CD version. So here, let me just return this back to false. And then you can see, like, from a documentation standpoint, if you did want to kind of export this and store it in the Lakehouse tables, absolutely go ahead. Just run across some for each loops across each item. All right, Gen 1, Gen 2. Let's see here. Let's run this one. I want to see what the body looks like, because it's going to be slightly different. It doesn't exist. All right, let's go back up to our list. Gen 2, let's copy that one. Let's run it. There we go. And you can do IDs, you can do happy just readable names, but it is different here, kind of between the two generations. So this is putting in the output as Parquet, like we just talked about, so it's no longer that CSV of Gen 1. This is also giving you the mashup definition here. So again, we have that complete section. Here's where it's writing to from like a destination. So you kind of see these underlying functions that aren't visible through the UI, and then just going through some other metadata that's available. All right, now we want to actually start upgrading, right? Like, hey, we have this new function here. This is like upgrading your Gen 1s. And then I also have like just, I don't care, upgrade it Gen 1 or Gen 2. Kind of a new one that I'd written. So I'm going to parse through that entire matchup document. I'm going to pull out the relevant parts. We'll put it in the right spaces here as well, converting it over with new payloads. And let's do list data flows. And then we'll do a fingers crossed, man. Fingers crossed. Awesome. So data flow ID plus, let's do CI/CD. Awesome. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I should expect to see 7 upgrades. Fingers crossed, guys.
Fingers crossed.
Monitor.
Pray into Murphy.
Of course.
Yeah.
It does not exist. What do you mean it doesn't exist? Upgrade data flow. Oh, because I was changing it here. There we go. I wanted to change the name. I think it's a different argument. All right, you can customize the name as like the third argument. I was flubbing with things too much here. So let me run it. This will go through. It'll detect if it's a Gen 1, Gen 2. It will look and see if there are linked tables, kind of like in this example, and it will just prompt you to say, hey, I recognize you may want to change something here. So now it's starting to go through, just looping through the contents, evaluating, can I meaningfully upgrade you to the CI/CD version, and then kind of green, yellow, red flags for things that may occur. But my gosh, semantic link.
I was going to say, if anything, just a really great demo of why you should be looking at semantic link labs as well. There's lots of this stuff. If you're interested in automating things, I think this is one of my favorite tools. Really, really good examples out there, seeing a lot in here. And a lot from the community, I think, which is great. People build stuff and love to share. So
yeah,
this is one of my favorite things that I've seen in a while from Fabric.
And that for me is like, we're all going to come up against this problem of having to upgrade. Can one of us solve it? Or, two of us solve it in like a code review? Then can we all just share the code? That for me is like what makes all this stuff so much fun. So looking at our so many Dataflows workspace now, we can start seeing that we're creating those CI/CD data flows, just going through that list. New one just got added right now too. So having this done programmatically is amazing. I didn't delete the original ones. Always review stuff, make sure it works before you clean up the old contents. Like that would be my big recommendation there. But if you wanted to do this complete end-to-end, just like stitch together some different things of like upgrade them, delete the old stuff, update your data pipeline to this new reference ID of the new item that's been created, like you could really do some amazing things here, make an end-to-end process.
And end of the day, as long as you have an automated structure in place, it's probably better than the world that you came from, right? It's all about the automation.
Yeah. And then if we were to go into one of these, we could see, hey, the contents have been migrated successfully. And then the last bit here, we'll see if I have anything here. Yep. So these are just kind of copied and pasted. But if I was actually connected to a source, I don't transfer over your credentials. I don't have any access to that. So you'll get the yellow banner just saying, hey, you need to log in for the first time. So just kind of keep that in mind as you're kind of going through migration. But, security, sensitivity, just an area I didn't want to touch. So if you want to make a pull request and do something wild, please go ahead. But those are the things I'm so excited about here with Dataflows, with new REST APIs, with Fabric, with having all this now available. Just the new capabilities that are being introduced. It feels like the things that we've been asking for as Power Query users for such a long time. Data destinations, high-speed data retrieval, being able to alter things through external systems with the parameter support. There are just so many new amazing capabilities that have kind of been landing. So let me kind of go back here. Just kind of a call to action for everyone. The big thing is like, if you were going through active migrations, going from like the Power BI generation, or even like Power BI desktop or Excel, like, hey, what are you looking at? Like, what are some of your projects that you're considering? And then like, what are you trying to implement? Cat team, myself and MVPs here, like Reed and Steve, we're always actively listening of like, well, what are you trying to do? What are the current projects that are kind of out in the market? And then like, what are the gaps that it maybe, functionally we can't complete, or we just don't have like an easy accelerator. I'm really actively trying to learn in this area from anyone that's going through this upgrade process. I think that we've got some really compelling new capabilities that can make things faster, make things more efficient, make your projects a lot more scalable here. It's just the right time, in kind of my opinion, to start looking at Dataflows Gen2 with CI/CD support. Is kind of a really awesome opportunity just to modernize a lot of the projects that have kind of been out there for the low code, no code folks.
Well, and as you continue to add a lot of these enterprise features, I think it's the scalability to a degree. Feasibility and scalability is both increased a lot for people to use this as a simple solution when something as robust as like a data pipeline isn't necessarily needed to be used yet for certain scenarios. So I like that you're adding stuff like this to I think make the transition or at least greater use cases for it now.
Big time. Steve, what are your thoughts?
I've said this before with other streams, but I love this investment with Microsoft on, as I say, kind of closing some of those gaps. Yeah, as Reed mentioned, upgrading those enterprise stuff, seeing things as code, right? Being able to run APIs and get all the code out of something, that's really, really helpful and needed in a lot of enterprise systems. So that kind of stuff, I'm really excited about. Reasons why you want to upgrade, right? Get those new Gen 2s in, and I think that's the stuff I see Microsoft paying a lot more attention to, and I think the community's very happy about it.
Awesome.
So,
Oh yeah, for sure.
Well, still in public preview test. Give us feedback. Think about production if you're on the bleeding edge of deployments. Just let us know where we can always do better. That's where I'm always kind of like, hey, make noise. Like that's the thing that we all enjoy here. With that though, Reed, man, we're at the end here for my content. So any questions, topics, thoughts, opinions?
A lot of thank yous from people. One comment actually just from Mark that'll pop up here on something that he did that ended up working on splitting to that topic earlier. We had a Gen 2 Dataflow fail a refresh incrementally, and he actually solved it by splitting up two of the largest fact tables into their own separate data flows. And I don't know if he incrementally refreshed on top of that, but it was one solution that ended up working after some failures.
That is interesting. Mark, would love to kind of hear a little bit more about that if you kind of run the chat, but certainly if it was a very large fact table, I'd love to know the data volume that you're kind of going up against. And then also, like, what is the source? Is it from a foldable source? Hopefully it would be fast copy that we could kind of leverage there. But if there was something with an incremental refresh that just was kind of getting hung up, I know Jeroen Loutwire from the team, he'd love to kind of hear from that. Let us know.
Seriously, like outside of fast copies, what's the largest volume that you've ever let Power Query chew through? Let's assume you can fold half of it, but at some point, like some local, query steps have to start chewing through that data. Like what would, and perfect world scenario, let's just say it's like Azure SQL or something where the fastest pipe is possible to get it in, but then it's some local transformations need to be done on like a fact.
Okay, so I love this question. Performance benchmarking. So one of my data flows, and I'm a huge fan of ELTL. So Dataflow Gen2, you need to start rethinking all of your data flows. That if you were like ETL, because Power BI, you always had to load it into the semantic model, so you had to do everything all in one, right? If you stage your data correctly, if you move things across appropriately, like the one that I have is like 376 million rows through like appending and some merging. It's completed in about 2.5 minutes.
Okay, that's pretty good.
But what you need to do is you need to load your data first into the Delta Parquet tables in a lakehouse. So then you get the SQL endpoint, right, Steve? Mm-hmm. With SQL endpoints, I can now do folding against the source. If I maintain folding all the way through, I can make sure that the underlying engines handle all the volume and scale for me. So because my first references are the data landed and transformed in the tables, my next is the reference of the query with folding occurring. And then at the very end, everything is being written into a kind of data warehouse. It's all possible. It's just the skill set and the mindset is a little bit different now with kind of that apples to apples versus apples to oranges. So if you have large volumes, please look at ELTL instead. Kind of that medallion mindset.
Exactly. I do like the ELTL. There you go. Just to make sure it's actually written in the stone in the chat. Mark had a follow-up just to give us some more context. So he did bring incremental refresh on top of it. Source was SQL database. The largest fact table had about 40 million rows. The second largest was 18. All the queries folded, and he was using an F2. Interesting. If it was 100% folding, like well, I guess if you have incremental refresh, it needs to at least fold up until the point that it applies the date parameters. But
Yeah, and Mark, I wouldn't be concerned about that because fast copy should be kicking in as well at that data volume. So I'd be kind of very curious to be like, well, what was the error? Or was it simply the F2 capacity was like saying, hey, you've exhausted something? And then as like more of a curious, like if you were to still do that same kind of loading using the copy activity in a data pipeline or even the copy job, like would you still have that same issue? Like, is it exclusive to the data flow? That'd be my kind of curiosity, Mark, if you were to kind of look at some different benchmarking in Fabric.
Excellent. No other messages at the moment. Steve, any closing thoughts from you?
No, I mean, love as always to have Alex on. Always really interesting. You know, we've all known each other a long time, and very, very interested to have on. Loves the automation, and I love seeing what you do with the automation. So no, thanks for coming on.
Best practices. That's where we need to go next.
Exactly.
Now that we have access to the code, like let's start refactoring it.
Definitely.
The AI generation, like let's pass some M through to this whole GPT craze and see what it comes back with. I just see so many cool opportunities for a lot of us in the Power Query space.
Exactly. Brilliant. Alex, this is always a pleasure to have you on whenever you're able to come on for this. Love the energy and continued excitement for the evolution of Power Query. So yeah, we'll happily have you back on again at some point in the future as well, when there's just more fun stuff to talk about.
Cool. Love being here. I think we'll call this one number 4, number 5 read. Let's hit double digits, then we get a free sub sandwich. That will be the trade-off here.
Exactly. You'll get your punch card.
Well, hopefully I'll see everyone at Build. Anyone who's attending Read, I will see you there in person. Steve, enjoy your vacation. And I just want to say thank you, everyone, again so much for giving us the time and the opportunity to kind of share a little bit of our passion and excitement here on the capabilities. So just thank you so much.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you. Have a good rest of your afternoon, Alex. Steve, have a good night, and everyone enjoy the rest of their Thursday.